Hello, everyone. Good morning. I have to admit that I feel a little thrill that it is Aya Miyaguchi being interviewed by Wendy Hanamura, two women of Japanese descent who are building new communities within the decentralized web. You know, Aya, you have talked about this community that you're building as an infinite garden. And I have to start with how we first met. Back in 2018, Aya was the newly minted Ethereum executive director, and I asked her to give her first speech on the stage of the Decentralized Web Summit. And she talked about leadership through subtraction. And it just stunned me because it was so nuanced, so interesting, so different from everything else being said on different stages. And I wanted to ask you how that has gone in your leadership, how that has worked.
So this is my first public talk after my transition, which actually transition is like the official transition is tomorrow, but we kind of transition. But anyway, the first one that I talked about subtraction was actually the Web Summit in 2018. That was almost actually my first also public talk as ED. So somehow you have been the
I'm your
first one.
bookend.
Yes. So this is, but also I can't find any other better situation talking about this at Internet Archive. I really appreciate you and Internet Archive existing in the world. It's very, very honor for me to be here at this timing. So subtraction was definitely, the idea was, it came from, again, like you explained, the tendency, natural tendency in this modern world is adding is better, bigger is better. And then as Ethereum Foundation, when I joined, EF looked like have a lot of money because of the value of Ether. And Ethereum ecosystem was already pretty big. And then the people wanted me to hire the best talents and all the people inside the Ethereum Foundation. That was the pressure that I was getting or being suggested. And then build EF and build an EF empire was the pressure I was getting. I didn't feel that was right, considering what kind of ecosystem we wanted to see, and also what this potential of Ethereum, what this could do to the world. So that because of the natural tendency, we pushed the idea of let's resist the tendency to accumulate the power, because people want to give us power. And so that was necessary because of the tendency, but it's not easy for everyone to understand. Maybe I have to admit, being Japanese, one word has layers of definitions, and we imagine different scenarios immediately, but that wasn't the case for everyone. So after I introduced that idea at the DWeb Summit for the first time, and then publicly, more broadly, I introduced that at DevCon Plug in that same year, later in 2018. It still wasn't understood immediately, and so I kept revising the way to explain. And yeah, so we did that at DevCon in Bogota in 2022. And then finally, many team, because Ethereum was already, ecosystem was already diverse, and then many teams started to recognize, oh wow, that's actually interesting. I want to implement that in my organization. So I started to hear that from many different teams. So this is not just for EF.
So let's talk a little bit for those who have not heard of the nuanced concept of subtraction. So what Aya said is that when she took over this $1 billion Ethereum Foundation, there were many forces who wanted to see it as a zero-sum game. Let's get bigger. Let's beat everyone else. Let's get more powerful leaders in there so we can dominate. And she said, no. I believe in a different way, the power of subtraction. And I understand this because when I was growing up, my mother, who grew up in a Buddhist household, would always say, Wendy, to win, you must lose. To win, you must. Needless to say, that was not the advice most American children were getting in the 20th century. But this is how I grew up. And so in subtraction, Aya, it's not that you dominate, right? It's not that you're trying to be the central controlling force. What does subtraction look like as a leadership parable?
Yes. So there's a paradox, like your mom's advice. People naively just immediately think, "Oh, does that mean EF do nothing?" And then, or we do less. The truth is, we actually have to think more at minimum, but also sometimes we might have to add new mechanisms to subtract power.
Right. So you have to add to subtract.
You have to add to subtract, exactly. And that's what we've been doing when organizing DevCon, or even like the Ethereum.org used to be only about EF teams, and now it's about Ethereum technology and community. And then, but the team is doing it in an open source way, bringing in contributors, writers, and translators from the world. So that is a lot more work than us controlling one website. And so subtraction is most likely we have to do more
Right.
than less.
A metaphor that you often use is the infinite garden.
Yes.
Right. So imagine this, folks. Both of us are women leaders trying to grow ecosystems within the decentralized web, but we're not trying to dictate how that grows. We're gardeners, we're stewards, and it's not trees and flowers, it's ecosystems and technologies. So, as the gardener of this infinite garden, what are some of the values that you bring to your work?
Yeah. So thank you. We do, so one of our guiding principles, other than subtraction, is stewardship of values. And then values, we do believe Ethereum's growth is meaningless if it doesn't come with these values. And then this is just made it easy for people to remember, like things like censorship resistance, open source, privacy, security. So I say infinite garden is for growing crops, and yeah, just for you to remember. And then these values are the one that, yes, it's Ethereum, but the most important part is these values are the one that are going to solve real world issues. And without this, growth would be easier without this. But we don't want to complement it, and then so that's very important for, especially when we think about the role of Ethereum Foundation. Now there are many things that are already taken care by ecosystem players other than EF, which we intentionally designed that with the power of subtraction. So most things are built by other teams, and even events are run by other teams. So that's great. But values are so easy to lose if you don't really work for it. And that's something I believe still EF has a special role in it. And yeah, it is the most important thing that we need.
So, for all of you leaders out there, and I suspect that there are many here and in our live stream audience, one of the ways that Aya has led is to always remember her North Stars. Easy to remember because they are crops, right? She's building toward these North Stars, and people will say, well, get that value up, Aya. What about this? You're not going fast enough. What's your product market fit? But you have to remember that at the center of that are these values. I want to go back, though, to your background. We could leave it on this. You were a teacher for 10 years, and it's probably good because you have probably encountered a lot of juvenile behavior in your work. But you're also a teacher and an educator. And then you were the president at Kraken. What made you want to take this role as Ethereum Foundation's executive director?
Yes. So I was in the space already before the EF, since 2013 officially. But Ethereum was, to me, as everyone knows, crypto has a lot of goods and bad, and there were many parts that I was disappointed in the industry, and I almost wanted to quit it all. I was thinking about other things. This was already 2016, 2017. But when I met Ethereum and the crew, the people around at every time, including Vitalik Buterin and people around him, I thought this is the hope. We if this doesn't succeed, this can become something very bad.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt. So
I have to say, I was around in 2017, 2016, and to meet the Ethereum founders, the core group, they were very different from everyone else, right? They're very philosophical and reading interesting books. And I had a chance to have dinner with Vitalik Buterin a couple nights ago, thanks to Funding the Common. And I asked Vitalik, okay, Vitalik, why did you pick Aya Miyaguchi to lead this foundation, your foundation, to steward billions of dollars in resources? And Vitalik, I don't know if you've ever met Vitalik, he doesn't just speak out of turn. And you could see him thinking, and he was processing and processing for about 2 minutes of silence. And at the end, he said, I thought she had the right set of values. And the values that he recognized in you, Aya, I think were these. The ones that you published in your blog: subtraction, which is not minimalism; long-term sustainability, not short-term gain; thoughtful complexity over oversimplification; stewardship, not control; adaptive growth, not rigid structure; purposeful evolution, not corporate-like expansion; and especially community leadership, stewardship, not dominance. Talk to us about how you've come to settle on these values and what they mean in practice.
it was pretty natural to me, but every decision wasn't easy. Often it was an unpopular decision to do this because, again, people want. If you look at all other crypto foundations or other projects, many of them are controlled by one company or foundation, and that's what people expect. And the growth is quicker, and people often connect that with the price and all. But I just didn't think there was any other way. This was the only way. I said this when explaining subtraction. Ethereum's potential is too big for one organization to even predict. And so that's what we believe, but also Vitalik believed from the very beginning. He knows that he can also make mistakes. And so that was something very special about Ethereum that I agreed to support. So
It comes through you, but emanates also from Vitalik. That I think
I do.
he mentioned, you said he would quit if it ever got to
we
be
talk
just like
about
any other crypto.
we always often confirm, like when people shout on Twitter, we talk about these things, and we both very much agreed. If this becomes something without values, we don't want we don't want this, and he also doesn't want that. So it is really not just fluffy philosophy, but we strongly believe that is very important. And this is, I still, there are many things that maybe we could have done differently, but this, I really still believe. I believe so even more now that without this, it's that the pressure is going to be bigger now that Ethereum needs growth, and then we also do believe that yes, Ethereum needs to grow, but how is very important. And
You said, and I want anyone out there who's thinking, these soft values, what do they mean? We, you have also a slide that shows what these values in practice means.
yes, maybe you can go to the next. Yeah, so one of the things, it sounds like a very fluffy philosophy to some people, but that what we did with the power of subtraction, it did expand the ecosystem. The now Ethereum is the largest ecosystem in the blockchain space from many different angles. And this is just one angle. But if you look at those, there are many other organizations in the Ethereum ecosystem who has a lot of treasury, and then we supported Uniswap in the beginning, for example, and also yeah, like these are like when you make space, these things grow, and this is just my. But if you can look at, maybe go to the next slide. This is because it's the, this event, it's funding the commons. This is how the public goods have been funded. And yes, EF still has a big portion, but what's great about this is more than half has been now funded by other teams. And I hope to see this, this grow further, because EF is not the richest organization. It has never been, but also, spending the treasury to support public goods. So this, without thinking about designing or thinking about this, at some point, this we will get to the big trouble. So I think this is a great ecosystem growth that we can see from one angle. Speaking of funding public goods.
So Ethereum has grown to be the largest in by almost any measure crypto community in the space, not by trying to dominate, but by trying to proliferate and support others. And you have said that Ethereum is not a business. What societal problems have you tried to focus on solving through Ethereum?
Well, it's not just us, but it is everyone's public goods, and then you can but the beauty of Ethereum is it's permissionless. You can participate in any layer. Now we have more than 7,000 developers building on Ethereum. That's the largest by far in the space. And then the app developers can make the decision what they want to solve. But I do hope to see solutions that can help the world a better place. That's how I believe that Ethereum was started.
You brought all your core developers to Kenya last year.
Yes.
And why was that?
So core developers, they have interop. The EF only coordinates, but at the end of the day, they make the decision. But so core developers normally don't get to talk to like the end users, right? They don't really, well, they can talk to, but they don't really interact with them. Or, but for them to see how local developers or users are, that what kind of challenges they are facing, and even technical decisions at the infrastructure level would impact that indirectly. For them to see that was very valuable, and many of them, it was first time for them to go to Africa, for example.
So to build good tools, you believe that tool makers need to sit at the table with those using them to understand their visceral reality. And I think you and I share the belief that this time around, we're not trying to create one winner. We're trying to create a game with many, many winners. I want to go to the next. Oh, actually, this is this little story. I'm not often starstruck, but thanks to Aya, in 2019, when I was at DevCon Osaka, I got to meet Kabosu. Kabosu is the Dogecoin dog, the true Dogecoin dog. And little story, my husband loved Kabosu. And every morning he would go to Kabosu's website and see what Kabosu was doing with his three little cat friends. And, he loved Kabosu. And tell us a little bit about what you did for Kabosu and Kabosu's owner.
So yes, Kabo-chan, we call her Kabo-chan, who passed actually, unfortunately, last year. For internet people, I think Kabotsu is more than just Doge face. It is like kind of internet meme. She became very famous than this crypto space. But the owner, she's actually a kindergarten teacher, and she always had this very humble life, and she had no idea how her dog became so popular. And at some point, she started to receive a lot of suggestions. Why don't you make Kabosu's NFT and then sell it? I can share profit with you. I can help you. So she got confused, and then, well, I've known her a long time, but I didn't try not to bring her to this word too much to so that she doesn't get bothered by too many crazy people. but she came to ask advice from me. What do you think? I'm receiving a bunch of English emails, and what do I do with this? So I said, here's what they're suggesting, but I don't think it makes sense for you to share profit with these people, the random people who just want to make money. But if you're interested, we can help you if you want to make Kabosu's NFT and then use it for causes she cares, which she cares about education and these animal protection and all this. And then she got interested, and so she did this NFT campaign and raised 4 million and spent all the money to actually build schools in developing countries. And
Right. So, however you feel about Dogecoin, however you feel about NFTs, in this one instance, you were able to create an NFT that raised $4 million, which she donated to build schools in the developing world. So I think that's a success. And I wanted to ask you in our closing, you've done so much, you and your community. What are you most proud of over the last 7 years?
were there were big things like the merge that Ethereum ecosystem really achieved during that time, which was really the reason why that was very meaningful. Was not just because it was very hard. Yeah, it was like changing the engine of flying plane, like because thousands of applications were running on Ethereum. But
Merge was the shift from proof of work to proof of stake.
yes, thank you. But it was also very meaningful because it was done by the community. It wasn't done by the Ethereum Foundation. The Ethereum Foundation people were part of it, but it was multiple teams who were part of it. And so that was very meaningful. But I am most proud how this ecosystem became the largest, with diverse teams, ideas, brains, talents, and it's thriving really beautifully, mostly without our power anymore. And I do think subtraction has achieved that. And so yeah, that's the contribution.
So, in the theory of subtraction, the goal of the leader is to make themselves unneeded. And indeed, you are stepping from everyday reigns of the foundation to be the president, where you'll help set the vision with Vitalik. What what are you going to be thinking about and focusing on in this new role?
Yes. So we have amazing new EDs, co-EDs in the EF now, and I'm going to be again like still focus on being a guardian for the values of Ethereum, and I will think more from now what that means. But Vitalik and myself, we do hope to preserve the values, and then there will be also, I would like to also introduce this infinite garden idea to broader community. Even this is can be implemented to other, not just Ethereum, not just crypto. So I would like to find intersections of these values, which I believe Internet Archive, for example, is we share the same values. And so I like to have more of these conversations outside of Ethereum, or at the intersection of Ethereum. That's what I like to focus.
You split one. Thank you, thank you. I just want to close us by saying this. When we did our first decentralized web gathering in this stage and this hall in 2016, we had with us the father of the internet and the father of the World Wide Web and the father of the Internet Archive. But today in 2025, we welcome Aya Miyaguchi, Ethereum Foundation president, who has led by subtraction. And we couldn't be prouder that in this Web3 world, this D-Web world, we have a few mothers. It's a much more plural space with people who have very different kinds of philosophies. So let's hear it for Aya Miyaguchi.